Alright, so we're going to begin our discussion of control flow by talking about if statements. But what is control flow all about actually? Well, control flow controls which parts of your code gets executed and which parts do not get executed. So the if statement is a very good way of controlling that. So let's suppose that you have a sensor somewhere and you're taking a temperature reading, and let's say you have the value of 35. Now what you might want to do is you might want to get different printouts depending on what the temperature actually is. So for example, if the temperature is greater than 30, then you might want to print out that it's hot outside. And I'm using Celsius obviously here. So you might want to print line really hot outside. So the end result of calling this is, of course, the output that it's really hot outside because temperature is in fact greater than 30. However, if I make it 25, for example, and I run this thing once again, then nothing gets executed because the condition in the if statement doesn't get turned to true. So effectively you never actually call the print line. Now, in addition to just a single check like if temp equals 30, you can also say what happens if temperature is not greater than 30. For example, I can say that if the temperature is not greater than 30, but if it is less than 10, for example, then we might want to say that it's particularly cold. So let's do that, and you can see that this is done with an else if. So really cold. Okay, so what happens here? Well, first of all, as we come into this line of code, the computer checks that the temperature is greater than 30. If it is greater than 30, it executes this statement. If it's not greater than 30, then it goes on. Then it comes here and it says, well, if temperature wasn't greater than 30, let's check if it's less than 10. Thus, we have the else if. So if the temperature is less than 10, then we print really cold. Let's make it 5, for example, and run this. So we get really cold as the result. So these are the two possible conditions. However, it is possible that the temperature is somewhere between 10 and 30, in which case we might want to run some other line of code. We might want to print out that the temperature is actually okay. So in this case, what we can do is we can put an else in here. So if all the other conditions are not satisfied, if the temperature is not greater than 30, if the temperature is not less than 10, then we will end up in this else block. And what we'll do here is we'll print out that the temperature is okay. Temperature is okay. Alright, so in this case, if I set the temperature to 15, for example, it's not greater than 30, it's not less than 10, therefore we should be in this block, and as I execute it, you see that the temperature is in fact okay. Now, an interesting thing about the if statement in Rust, as opposed to some of the other languages, is that the if statement is actually an expression. So I can write things like this. If I want to figure out whether it's sunny or not, I can say let day equals, and here I can put an if statement. So I can say if temperature is greater than 20, then it is sunny, otherwise it is cloudy. You'll notice that the curly braces here, they are mandatory. I cannot avoid writing them. So what I've written right now is a variable declaration. So day is obviously a text variable. It's a string variable, and it contains different values depending on the value of temp. So if the temperature is greater than 20, then the value of day will have the string sunny. Otherwise, it will have the string cloudy. Alright, so now that we have this, we can actually print line the result. So today is day, and right now, because I have temperature at 15, it's not greater than 20, it's gonna print cloudy. Today is cloudy. However, if I change it to 25 and I run this again, it's gonna print today is sunny. So you can use the if statement and it actually returns a value. So you can assign that value to a variable. Okay, so in a similar fashion, what you can do is you can have that if right inside your print line, for example. So I can do something like this. I can print line, it is curly braces, and also notice that I can have else ifs as part of this kind of inline declaration, in the sense that here I can say it is, and then I can say if temperature is greater than 20, then we print hot. Else if temperature is less than 10, then we can print cold. Otherwise, here is the else, we print OK. And all this is happening inside the println macro. So I close the round brace here, and now depending on the temperature, I'm going to print it is hot if it's temperature greater than 20, cold if it's less than 10, otherwise OK. So let's try this. If I put it to 5 and run this, it's going to say it is cold. And if I put it to 15, for example, it's going to say it is OK. All right, so finally, one thing I want to show you is that not only can you have an if, else if, and else inside some other invocation, having it yield some result, but you can also have ifs inside ifs, so to speak. So let me show you how that works. I'm going to write something very similar, but now we're going to say that if the temperature is greater than 30, then instead of writing hot, we're going to write very hot. So print line, once again, it is so-and-so. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to, right here, I'm going to say if the temperature is greater than 20, but then I'm going to open a curly brace, and I'll close it here. And inside, I'm going to have yet another if statement. So instead of just yielding the value, as I do here, yielding the hot value, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another if. I'm going to say if temperature is greater than 30, then I'm going to return very hot. Otherwise, I'm just going to return hot. Okay, and similarly here in the else if, I can say else if temperature is less than 10, then return cold. Otherwise, return OK. There we go. All right, so the end result, what we're getting here is we're getting an if inside of an if, but the inner if can still return us values like hot and very hot. So if I make the temperature 35 like this and I run this, I get it is very hot.